back. You're still tuned in to News and Views with myself, Salailo Makwidiri. We are broadcasting live from Johannesburg on News and Views. That's the name of the show. The name of the station is Salam Media, your humanitarian journalism portal. It's just after, 9:15, and we're going to be switching gears now to a landmark move. Ireland has become the first European nation to outlaw trade and imports from Israeli settlements in the occupied Palestinian territories, a direct response to decades of illegal land grabs and human rights abuses. The new legislation, spearheaded by Foreign Affairs Minister Simon Harris, follows a 2024 advisory opinion from the International Court of Justice, the ICJ, that condemned Israel's settlements as violations of international law. But despite widespread international condemnation, as we've all seen, Israel continues to expand these illegal settlements, entrenching apartheid policies and crushing any hope of a two-state solution, because while they keep creating little Bantustans for the people of Palestine, something that us here in South Africa know all too well. And to help us discuss, I think this very, very appreciated and historic stand by Ireland, we'll be talking to Her Excellency Palestinian Ambassador to Ireland, Dr. Jilan Wahba Abdalmajid, and she'll be unpacking a bit for us on how we got to this point, and most importantly, Palestinian solidarity in Europe and in Ireland, and how it has evolved in the last few years. Your Excellency, thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to Salam Media. Really appreciate you giving us your time this morning.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
I think first and foremost, just your reaction, and if you could just unpack how significant it is for Ireland to decide to ban trade with Israeli settlements, both legally and symbolically. How important is it, and what message does it send to the rest of Europe?
First of all, let me give you a brief about this bill. Actually, this bill originally founded in 2018 and presented to the Parliament by Senator Francis Black, and the bill itself was covering the area of import, export, goods, services, and natural resources from the occupied Palestinian territories. After passing the 5 stages of the Senate in Ireland, and then moved to the Dáil, which is the Parliament, the deputies, council. They passed 3 stages, and then it was stopped. It was stopped by the government for more research and for more discussions over its illegality. But after the war against Gaza by Israel and the advisory opinion, the ICJ advisory opinion about the illegality of the occupation and the pressure that came from the opposition parties and from the nations, the government, however, they were they were to speak about it loudly, about support the Palestinians and their rights and the illegality of the colonial occupation and the illegality of the Israeli settlements, but that takes a bit time to be reintroduced. And recently, in the last couple of weeks, the government submit a draft resolution, and the government approved it. And it was sent to the Foreign Affairs Committee at the Irish Parliament, and then they decided, to take it, to advance it, and to implement it into a law. Actually, the government, because it was the government bill, so it will take the discussions into 3 stages in the Foreign Affairs Committee. They have already received or welcomed external advisors. There will be discussion among the members, and there will be discussion as well around it from legal experts. At the end of the day, as the government has the will actually to advance it. So we hope that before the suspension of the Dáil in the mid of July, this will be adopted. And actually the bill is to prohibit the importation of goods into the state of Ireland from the Israeli settlements, including East Jerusalem. So this is very important. It's not only significant or historic or symbolic, it's very important, it's very significant, because Ireland will be the first country to introduce such a bill and make it offense to import goods from. I know that this is might be taken from others as something new, but Ireland for years was consistent about supporting the Palestinian rights, and as well as Ireland position itself as a supporter of justice and international law. And that's where I see that what Ireland did is in compliance with the international law.
Mm, mm, mm. Let's talk a bit about the specifics thereof. Is it the state of Israel as a whole, or some of the settlements we've seen in recent years? I think there's been an aggressive push to settlements that are have been approved by the Israeli government. There's been around 22 of these Jewish settlements, if I'm not mistaken, that have expanded in the West Bank. Is the focus on trade and doing business with only focus on these settlements, or the state of Israel as a whole?
No, actually, the bill aimed at the illegal settlements built on the occupied Palestinian territories occupied in 1967, including
Mm,
East Jerusalem. It's not about Israel itself. You know that Ireland recognized, as the whole world recognized, Israel, but they don't recognize the Israeli settlement that was built on the stolen land of the Palestinians in the 1967. So it's only importation of goods from these occupied territories. So what is under the international law considered as colonization or colonist settlements, it's prevented to import any goods from these areas.
mm, mm, mm. Let's focus on these illegal settlements. Just your analysis of them. I think it is quite clear that the push for them and are seeing them mushroom as much as they have been in recent years. The core, reason for their existence is to be a direct threat to the much proposed two-state solution. From your perspective, how have these settlements impacted Palestinians on the ground, and just generally their mission, essentially, when it comes to the existence of a Palestinian homeland, and the takeover of the country as a whole, essentially by the Israeli apartheid government?
Of course, I mean, this is the Israeli aim is to grasp the land, to steal the land with the less people. The settlements that was built on almost 60% of the area in the West Bank, which considered, like, the 67 borders of the Palestinian future state. Israel is changing the fact. I mean, they create a de facto, and actually we called it the de facto annexation. Actually, it's become almost, I mean, with all the bills and rules that was adopted by the government and the Knesset, the Israeli parliament, to make it de jure. I mean, it's a fact. Build these land that was stolen, that over the years, it's, as I said, it's almost 62%, 62% of the area in the West Bank. Of course, the Israel expand more than 250 settlements that was built on this area, and serve more, almost like 700,000 Israeli colonial settlers. This is like, settlements are illegal. Their existence in the occupied territories is illegal. It's not illegal because I say that. It's because the
Mm,
international law said that, as well as the recent ICJ advisory opinion that said this is illegal. Of course, that what Israel wanted to do is to put on the ground a reality that, okay, my people is living there, and this is the land that we built these settlements. It's belonging to Israel. It's changing all the concept of the 67 borders. It was actually when we accepted the compromise for over the 22% of the Palestinian land, that was for because we believe that we need to have peace in the region and we deserve to have a state. So we accept this compromise over the 22%. But Israel as well, since then, they don't want to have any Palestinians. They don't want to let them belong to any Palestinian state. And they create these facts on the ground. International law is clear. This is occupied territories, and the international community must respect that, because not because of the Palestinians, it's because that this is the international law by them after the World War II. And these principles, these international law must be respected.
Mm, mm, mm. I think we can all agree that this is a historic step for the EU, particularly because I think it's the first of its kind. No other country has come out this strong when it comes to a show of Palestinian solidarity. Let's talk about Europe and how the narrative on Palestine and Palestinian solidarity has changed since October the 7th. What have we witnessed? Are we seeing a change in the stance that was previously taken by some of the European countries? Are we seeing them challenge the narrative when it comes to Israel? And is it government fueled, or is the people on the ground that are putting pressures on the different governments across Europe to make some of these decisions like Ireland has?
Definitely. I mean, the narrative of the Palestinian started to grow in Europe after the 7th of October, not because it wasn't recognized, but there was a change in the attitude over these communities or these nations after the 7th of October, when they realized that Israel not only is an apartheid state, but it's a state that kill and maim, that they wanted to create a new facts on the ground that have more Palestinian land with less Palestinian people, and they kill the people. And this was called genocide, and by some of the European leaders. That something is new as a Palestinian that we witness after the 7th. The nations who give the votes to the governments, and this is how I see it, and this is how I believe it, and how this is how it works. So these nations that protest over the past 21 months after this war against the Palestinian in Gaza, they realize that with all the initiatives that come from Europe, from the international community for the ceasefire, all these initiatives were dropped. The nations continue to protest. The nations believe that this is a just cause, and the Palestinian people deserve to be recognized as a nation, as a state, a free state. These nations in certain countries, they manage to put pressure over the government, and one of those countries is Ireland. I could see as well Spain, Norway, and other countries, but they couldn't manage to change it. And after the recognition of certain countries like Ireland and Spain and Norway, I believe that this is gonna go even stronger, with more people to protest their governments and to challenge their governments. So it's important, this change. I see a slight change in the Palestinian narrative, or acceptance of the Palestinian narrative. It's not because I repeat or start to engage more or to speak about our narrative. It's because these nations witness live stream genocide on their TVs. They see it, they witness it, and they believe that Israel wanted to kill the Palestinians and to bring more lands to their authority with less people. And actually, what they are doing now of starvation, and use this starvation as a weapon of war, this is a crime, and it's a war crime that must be that Israel must be held accountable, and stop to act with impunity. Because if there is no accountability, Israel will continue. And this is what we witnessed in the last 21 months. Israel continue with the support of certain countries and certain leaders of the world. Israel will not stop unless there will be a real will to stop this genocide.
Mm, mm, mm. This is only the first step. But just looking at Ireland first, the country that you are hosted in, is there more that you have tabled, that you've put into place, that you think Ireland can do, that you think maybe the rest of the EU can follow suit and implement to make sure that Israel is held accountable? There are consequences to this genocide in Gaza, and we start seeing a bit of less of lip service, but I think actions, which is something that has lagged, a lot in the last few years.
I see the double standard very obvious and very clear since the 7th of October. I don't want to talk about the specific countries, but sanctions were used against certain countries, and it was not used against Israel. I heard, a few days ago that some countries they threatened, for example, Iran, about
Mm,
taking more sanctions or to bring back the sanctions very immediately, and they decided, to take more actions with Russia. But on the other side, Israel is committing genocide, and according reports that coming from international organizations, that Israel is using starvation as a war crimes. Still, we didn't see sanction, and without this kind of tool that was protected by the international law, I don't think that Israel, it didn't stop and it will not stop. So I see that to be able for the international community to use one standard, which is according to the international law, that makes a difference. So the international law or the sanction is not applied against certain countries and not against Israel. There must be kind of acceptance that international law is one, and the positions of the countries must be to abide by the international law and take actions. So sanction is the next step that must be taken by certain countries to stop Israel. Other than this, Israel will continue ahead with its plan to destroy the Palestinian lands and to kill more Palestinians.
mm, mm, mm. How do you respond to those that are saying this ban will also affect Palestinians themselves? There are Palestinians who are living and working in some of the occupied territories, and they have produce that is also shipped to parts of Europe and make its way to Ireland, and this ban it in itself will also be affecting them. Is this anything you can say and mention around that?
You know what I mean? When you discuss international law, it's international law. You don't talk about details. But let me confirm that. Even after the 7th of October, Israel prevent all the labor to come into Israel. So in practice, there is no Palestinians work in the occupied territories. And when you, as I said, when you discuss international law, it's
Mm,
not it's you or me. It's international law. You talk about produce that come from the occupied territories or import or export to the occupied territories. Israel now is laboring with use international labors, and they stop bring Palestinians from the West Bank or Gaza, the West Bank, including East Jerusalem and Gaza. And when you talk about international law, this is what make it not talking about who or he. It's
mm.
about implement the international law.
Mm, mm. Lastly, Your Excellency, before I let you go, it's been 633 days of this live streamed genocide, as you've mentioned. We've seen, I think, the most horrendous of actions perpetuated by the Israeli apartheid regime. If you can just encapsulate, just as briefly as you can, from the 7th of October to where we are finding ourselves right now, to our South African audience as a Palestinian. How would you summarize it? How would you encapsulate it? And what message would you like to send to the rest of the international community as we are seemingly heading to almost 2 years of this genocide?
Let me first, I would like to extend my sincere gratitude and appreciation and thanks and to admit that the South African people solidarity and support make a big change over even the international law. I mean, taking Israel into the ICJ for the under the Genocide Convention. That was a very, very significant step taken by the South Africa government and the South African people into account, and the solidarity with the South Africans since, Mandela and Desmond Tutu and all these figures that supports the rights of the Palestinian people. This after the 7th of October and until now, sometimes I don't like to talk about the figures, because the figures, it's not like the 56,000, or recent figures say that more than 300,000 Palestinian either killed or injured or maimed or under the rubble. It's a matter of stories for each family. We have more than 2,000 family erased from the records in Palestine, and Israel continue and using the worst ever means of humiliate and dehumanize the Palestinians is starvation. And since March, they didn't allow any of the aid to come into Gaza. People are starving, people are dying, children are dying from malnutrition. This has never happened in history, while the whole world witnessed this. Um, Israel acting like with impunity because there is no accountability. The most important thing is for the international community to put pressure over this and to hold Israel accountable for all these crimes that perpetrated against the Palestinian people. We are strong, we still have the hope, and we will rebuild Gaza. This is the only thing that I have in my mind. And I am I am sure, and I trust my people, that even though at the beginning of the war, some of them they left or they forced to leave, because the situation now, Gaza, Israel tried over the past month to make Gaza unlivable, to force, even after the ceasefire, or even after they stop the war, hopefully that it will be very soon. They don't want the Palestinians to stay, but the problem is the Palestinians uh, only see that Palestine and Gaza is home. Palestine
Mm,
is our home, and we will not, and no one ever on this earth will force us to leave. So we will stay, we will remain, and we will rebuild Gaza. And we will force the international community to help us, not to rebuild Gaza, because we will rebuild it. The Palestinian will rebuild it, but to hold Israel accountable over the war crimes that committed against the Palestinian people. But we still have hope, and I myself and all the people that I know still have the hope, because we cannot lose the hope. If we
mm,
lost the hope since 1948, we wouldn't stay here and represent the Palestinians, and the whole Palestinians still believe that we belong there, and this is our right to self-determination. And the people, the international community, must acknowledge and recognize this right. Other than this, there will be no peace in the region.
No, definitely, Your Excellency. Thank you so much for joining us and giving us your time. Really, really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Appreciate it. Yeah, that was the ambassador of Palestine to Ireland, and yeah, it's concerning, man. As a South African, particularly looking at the way the people of South Africa, the public of South Africa, have been up in arms and saying our government should be tying ties, should be severing ties with the state of Israel, and to this day, despite the ICJ case and the brilliant work that was made there, and the work that the people of Palestine appreciate so immensely, because every time you speak to a Palestinian, when they hear that you're South African, the first thing that they say is, thank you. Thank you for taking Israel to the ICJ. You're one of the few countries to make sure that they are at least questioned. If they can't be held accountable, let them be seen in front of an international court and made to answer for the transgressions and the gross human rights violations that have been perpetuated against the people of Palestine. But still, you still have companies like Glencore, Africa Rainbow Minerals, that are sending our coal Here in South Africa, we take these people to the ICJ. We say there's a genocide happening that the world needs to look into. There's a case to investigate by the International Court of Justice here. Call them, put them on a stand so that they answer some of these questions that we all have and some of the images that we're seeing coming out of Palestine. You still have countries that are mining our minerals on this land that we call home. Our minerals, diamonds, coal, is shipped to Israel. And it's essentially keeping the lights on. It's making sure that this genocide continues unabated and the people of Palestine are being slaughtered using our resources. So, yeah, brilliant work by Ireland, but it puts things to perception about our country and just how our government is at this point paying lip service. There's so much more that we can do as a country after the ICJ case to hold Israel accountable. We applaud Ireland's courageous stand, and as the occupation deepens and settlements spread across Palestine, I think such a bold action and a bold move reminds us that international solidarity remains a vital weapon in the fight for Palestinian freedom. We know it all too well here in South Africa. We know that it wasn't just the actions of the ANC or the PAC or brilliant young South Africans that put the apartheid regime to its knees. It was the international community. It was Palestinians themselves. Let's start with the boycotts, eh? Maybe if we can't, have the government of the day here in South Africa represent us on that level, cutting ties with Israel on all levels, sports and arts and culture, business, goods, services, imports, exports, education. If they can't do it, let's start with ourselves. Let's start boycotting products that are from Israel. Let's start boycotting companies that are in bed with this regime and are essentially funding the genocide against the people of Palestine. Maybe we can start there and ultimately put more pressure on our government to make sure that they also pull the plug. We don't want Israeli money here in South Africa, and we don't want our goods and services, the brilliant produce that we're blessed with here in South Africa, to make its way there and feed the people that are bombing children and women, full bellies with South African fruits and vegetables. Going to take a quick break. News and Views continues after this.